A television, old, the kind with rounded corners and a rotary dial on the side. The screen has that particular greenish glow that televisions had before everything went flat and clean and forgettable. Static, then the emergency broadcast tone. That specific sound. The one the government trained you since childhood to stop whatever you were doing and listen to. The color bars appear: white, yellow, cyan, green, magenta, red, blue, black. In that exact order, the order they are always in, the order that means everything is normal, everything is calibrated, nothing is wrong. Except the bars are in the wrong order, the colors are correct, but their positions are shuffled, like someone who memorized the pattern but didn't understand it. And in the center, in the bar that should be gray, something blinks. Once. It blinks the way a person blinks, not a flicker, not a technical error. A slow, deliberate blink, like an eye that has been open for a very long time. And finally, briefly rested, cut to black. Silence, we begin. His name is Daniel Mercer. He is 41 years old, and the house he lives in still smells like the life his family used to have. His wife Claire left 8 months ago. She didn't take much when she went. She left her coffee mug. She left the throw blanket on the couch. She left their daughter Ruby's drawings stuck to the refrigerator with magnets shaped like fruit. She took Ruby. That's what Daniel doesn't tell people when he explains that Claire left. He says she left and lets people picture a woman walking out the front door alone, suitcase in hand, something salvageable still between them. He doesn't say that Ruby's bedroom is empty. He doesn't say that the drawings on the fridge are the last things Ruby's hands ever touched in this house, and that he has not moved a single one of them in 8 months, and that sometimes, very late at night, he stands in the kitchen and looks at them and pretends she's just asleep down the hall. Doesn't say any of that. He says she left and changes the subject. The subject he changes it to is the television. There is a cabinet below the television in the living room. Inside that cabinet, stacked in careful order, each one labeled in black marker, are 94 VHS tapes. Daniel recorded all of them. He recorded them over 3 years during the nights he was alone, pointing his old camcorder at the television and capturing what the television showed him. What the television showed him had no business being there. Claire found tape 67. She watched 40 seconds of it. She left that night, and she took Ruby, and she did not leave a note. We will come back to tape 67. But first, you need to understand what Daniel saw at the beginning. What made him start filming in the first place? Because that is where Signal B9 begins, and it begins simply, the way most terrible things do. It starts the way it always starts. Static, the emergency tone. Color bars, in the wrong order, always in the wrong order, that shuffled sequence that looked almost right but wasn't. And then the bars cut to a living room. Not Daniel's living room. A different one. Older furniture. Wood paneling on the walls. A lamp with a yellow shade. And in the center of the room, sitting in a chair with her back to the camera, a woman, watching a television of her own. The television she is watching shows another living room. A third one. Smaller. A child's drawings on the wall, and in that room, another person in another chair, watching another television. Daniel counted 6 layers before the resolution became impossible. 6 rooms, nested inside each other like mirrors facing mirrors, each one slightly older, slightly further back in time. The furniture getting heavier and darker with each layer, the televisions getting more primitive, until the last one, the 6th, barely looked like a television at all. He held it together until layer 3. That was when the woman in layer 3 turned around. She looked directly at him. Not at the camera. At him. The way you look at someone you recognize. Daniel stopped filming. The tape ends. What he didn't say into the camera, what he couldn't bring himself to say, was that the woman in layer 3 was wearing Claire's sweater, the grey cardigan with the fraying cuffs, the one Claire said she lost 2 years before they ever met. That was tape 1, the first night, 3 years ago. He should have thrown the television away that night. Instead, he went to the store the next morning and bought more blank tapes. He needed to understand what he was seeing. That is how he would explain it later, and it's true as far as it goes. But the fuller truth, the one that took him a long time to admit, was that the signal felt like company. His daughter was down the hall. His wife was still his wife. And the television, in its horrible way, was showing him something, paying attention to him. And that felt at the time like enough reason to keep watching. Stop here for a second. Look at layer 2 of that broadcast, not layer 3, where the woman turns around. Everyone focuses on layer 3, but look at layer 2. The television in that room is showing a channel that did not exist yet in the year Daniel recorded this tape. I found that 3 weeks ago, and I have not slept properly since. Stay with me. It gets much worse. 8 months after Claire left, a neighbor called the police. Daniel had not answered his door in 4 days. He had not collected his mail. His car hadn't moved. The officer who caught the call was Detective Paula Voss. She was 52 years, old, 2 years from retirement, and the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. She had a daughter she hadn't spoken to in 3 years, a fight that started as something small and grew in the silence between them until neither of them knew how to cross it anymore. She thought about that daughter every single day. She had never once picked up the phone. She drove to Daniel's house alone. It was a Tuesday morning, pale and overcast, the kind of day that seems lit by nothing in particular. She knocked. No answer. She tried the door. It opened. She stepped into the hallway and stopped. The television was on. Color bars. Wrong order. The emergency tone playing softly from the speaker, so softly she almost hadn't noticed it beneath the silence of the house. And what was on the screen was a room. Paula Voss had never been to this house before that morning. She had never met Daniel Mercer. She had never seen a photograph of his living room, but she recognized what the television was showing. It was the room from her dream. She had dreamed about it for years. Always the same room. A chair facing a television, a specific crack in the baseboard near the left corner. The particular angle of the afternoon light through a window she'd never looked out of. She had described this room to no one. It lived entirely inside her head, private and recurring and unexplained. And here it was, on Daniel Mercer's television, shown to her like something already known. She wrote one line in her notebook and immediately crossed it out. She told herself she was being irrational. She told herself it was a coincidence. She told herself a lot of things in the 30 seconds it took to cross the living room and find Daniel Mercer in the basement. He was alive. He was sitting in a chair, facing a blank wall where a television used to hang. He didn't seem surprised to see her. He seemed, if anything, relieved that someone had finally come. "How long have you had the dream about the room?" he asked. Before she could say a word, Voss did not answer. But her hand went to her notebook. The crossed-out line was still legible. She didn't look at it. She already knew what it said. Voss spent 2 days going through the cabinet. 94 tapes. She watched them in order, the way Daniel had labeled them, the way he had experienced them. Chronologically, each one a new night, a new broadcast. A new impossible thing captured on tape and filed away with the careful discipline of a man who needed to believe he was still in control of something. Tape 19 stopped her. Daniel had taken the camcorder outside. It was afternoon, bright, ordinary, the kind of afternoon that feels aggressively normal. He was filming through the living room window, capturing the television from the lawn. The glass distorted the image slightly. The television was showing weather, standard afternoon weather coverage, rain moving east. A forecast nobody needed to worry about, except the forecast matched the weather outside. Exactly, in real time. Daniel panned the camera to show the sky. Same clouds, same movement, same direction, then panned back to the television. Then he spoke, his voice careful and slow, the voice of a man trying very hard not to sound frightened. "The television is unplugged. I unplugged it 40 minutes ago. I'm watching it from outside to make sure I don't accidentally turn it back on." "It's still broadcasting." Voss paused the tape. She walked to the television in Daniel's living room and looked behind it. The power cable ended 2 feet from the wall, frayed, old, never connected to anything. She moved the television away from the wall and looked at the outlet behind it. There was no outlet. The wall was smooth and solid, a rectangle of slightly different paint. The ghost of an outlet, painted over years ago. The television had never been plugged in. She went back to the tapes. She watched tape 19 to the end. Daniel pans the camera up, above the tree line, checking the sky one more time. He holds it there. The camera holds on the sky for 6 seconds, in the upper left corner of the frame, above the trees, hanging at cloud level like a projected image on fog, the color bars, not clouds, shaped like bars. The actual broadcast graphic, white, yellow, cyan, green, magenta, red, blue, rendered in the sky. Vertical, perfect, in the wrong order. Daniel's voice, very quietly. It's outside now. He lowers the camera. The tape ends. Every tape in that cabinet, 94 nights of footage, was recorded from a television with no power source. The signal does not travel through cables or frequencies, it travels through attention. The television was never a transmitter. It was a frame. Signal B9 used the screen the way a window uses glass, not to generate the view, but to give it a shape the human eye could hold on to. Voss found the name Ellen Vale in Daniel's notes. He'd written it on a folded piece of paper tucked inside. Tape 32, Dr. Ellen Vale, University Media Archive. She already knows about the signal. Do not call her. He had underlined the last 3 words twice. Voss called her. Dr. Ellen Vale was 66 years old. She had spent 30 years building a private archive of emergency broadcast anomalies, recordings, documents, photographs, audio logs, all of it catalogued with an attention to detail that bordered on devotion. She had identified Signal B9 in 1989, 17 years before Daniel Mercer first saw it. She had reported it to 6 separate agencies. She had received 6 separate response letters, all of them different in length and wording, all of them identical. In meaning, the signal you describe does not match any registered broadcast frequency. What they never addressed, she had not described the frequency. She had only described what she saw on the screen. They knew what she was going to ask before she asked it. She had been trying to work out what that meant for 33 years. When Voss told her about Daniel, about the 94 tapes, the unplugged television, the layered broadcast, Ellen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The layers. Yes. How deep did he go?" 6, Voss said. He counted 6 rooms. Another silence, longer this time. I've only ever gotten to 5. I've been trying to reach 6 for 30 years. There was no jealousy in her voice. No frustration. Just the exhausted recognition of someone who has been second closest to something for a very long time. Voss drove to Ellen's archive the next morning. It was a storage unit outside the city, climate-controlled, rented under a university department that had been defunded 12 years ago. Ellen paid for it herself now. She had never considered stopping. The archive was organized in a way that only made sense once you understood it. Not alphabetical, not by date, by the subject's relationship to the signal, how long they'd been exposed, how deep the layers went, whether they could still distinguish the broadcast from their own thoughts. Daniel Mercer was in the second-to-last section. The last section had 1 folder in it, no name, just a symbol Ellen had drawn herself, a horizontal line with a small vertical mark in the center. Like a bar from the broadcast, like an eye half closed. "What's in the last section?" Voss asked. Ellen looked at her steadily. "The tape I found here when I rented the unit, the one that was already here, waiting, the one that was recorded 3 years before Daniel Mercer saw the signal for the first time. I want you to hold on to something before we watch this tape. Ellen Vale has known about Signal B9 since 1989. Daniel Mercer first saw it 3 years ago. The tape in that last folder was recorded before Daniel ever turned on his camcorder. That is not a paradox. That is the signal telling us something." about the order of events. And the order is not what we think it is. Stay with me. The footage is old. The quality is correct for 1983. The grain, the color bleed, the particular way the image breathes at the edges. 3 independent laboratories confirmed the tape stock and magnetic coating are consistent with manufacture between 1981 and 1984. The footage shows a room, Daniel Mercer's living room, the furniture he bought in 2019, the crack in the baseboard near the left corner. Through the kitchen doorway, just visible, Ruby's drawings on the refrigerator, drawn in a handwriting that is unmistakably a child's, unmistakably Ruby's, in a hand that wouldn't exist for another 33 years, recorded in 1983. For 46 minutes, the room is empty. In the 47th minute, someone walks in from the hallway. They move slowly, unhurried, like someone entering a room they know well. They sit in the chair facing the television. They fold their hands in their lap. They wait. The television turns on by itself. Color bars, wrong order, emergency tone. The person in the chair does not react. They were expecting it. The camera catches the hallway mirror. In the mirror's reflection, the room behind the camera. Someone is holding it. Their face is turned away, but their clothes are modern. Contemporary shoes. And tucked under their arm, a small spiral notebook. Blue cover, the kind Paula Voss has carried for 20 years. The person in the chair turns to face the camera directly. It is Detective Paula Voss, 52 years old, the same clothes she wore this morning when she walked into Daniel Mercer's house for the first time. Voss watched the tape twice. On the second viewing, she checked her notebook. The first 6 pages were gone, torn out cleanly from the binding. She had no memory of removing them. She had no memory of what was written on them, though she had the distinct and nauseating feeling that she had written on them recently. Today, maybe. This morning. She turned to the next page. Her own handwriting continued mid-sentence, as if the pages before it had simply always been missing. The sentence made no grammatical sense without its beginning. She looked at the tape. She looked at the figure holding the camera in the mirror's reflection. The notebook under that person's arm. She already knew this room. She'd dreamed about it for years. The chair, the crack in the baseboard, the angle of the light. The signal hadn't shown her a new room when she walked into Daniel's house this morning. It had shown her a room she had already been in, a room she had already filmed, a room she had apparently entered, recorded, and then somehow forgotten, or had the memory removed, or had never truly left. Signal B9 does not predict the future. It manufactures the past. Every person who encounters the broadcast carries implanted imagery that feels like genuine memory. They cannot distinguish what they experienced from what the signal installed. Voss's recurring dream is not a dream. It is a recording the signal made of a place she will visit, delivered to her mind before the visit occurred, so that when she finally arrives, she will feel she already belongs there. The broadcast is not showing people what is coming. It is making them feel like they have always been part of it. There is one tape in Daniel's cabinet that has no label. Voss almost missed it. It was wedged behind the others, pressed flat against the back of the shelf. The tape stock is newer than the rest, filmed recently. It shows Ruby's bedroom. Daniel is in the doorway, holding the camcorder. You can hear him breathing. He is trying to be quiet. Ruby is asleep. She is 7 years old, and she is sleeping the way children sleep. Completely, without reservation, her whole body committed to it. On her nightstand, the small portable television Daniel bought her, the one with the cartoon rabbit painted. On the case, a nightlight that was also a television, something she'd begged for since she was 4, something Claire had eventually agreed to. It is on. Color bars. Wrong order. No sound. Just the visual. Playing silently in Ruby's dark room while she slept. This has happened before. You can tell by how Daniel breathes, by the fact that he doesn't move, doesn't turn it off, doesn't wake her. He's seen this before. He has learned that it doesn't hurt her. He has learned to tell himself it doesn't hurt her. Then Ruby speaks, eyes closed, voice flat and clear, the voice of a child reciting something memorized so thoroughly it requires no thought. The signal started before there were televisions to carry it. It was always looking for a screen. We gave it screens. That was the mistake. Now it knows how to use us the same way. She turns over in her sleep. She doesn't wake up. Daniel's voice from behind the camera, barely above a whisper. Ruby, who told you that? A long silence. Long enough that Voss thought the child was truly asleep and wouldn't answer. Then, you did, Daddy. Last Tuesday. Daniel's breathing stops on the tape. You can hear the exact moment it stops. The tape was recorded on a Tuesday. Daniel's own handwritten log attached to the cabinet with a binder clip, pages folded back, Claire's name crossed out at the top, shows that last Tuesday he was in another city. A work trip, 200 miles away. His hotel receipt is paperclipped to the page. His handwriting confirms it. He was not in this house last Tuesday. He told Ruby something he has no memory of saying, in a house he was not in, on a night he cannot account for. Signal B9 does not only broadcast to people who watch it. After sufficient exposure, it broadcasts through them. Daniel has been transmitting the signal's knowledge to Ruby for months, appearing in the house during the windows he cannot account for, delivering information he doesn't consciously know, in his own voice and his own body, with no memory of any of it afterward. He did not document 94 nights of what the signal showed him. He documented 94 nights of what the signal was practicing, using him to refine the message it wanted Ruby to carry. Tape 67 was not in the cabinet. Voss found it in a lockbox under the floorboards of Daniel's bedroom. A combination lock, the numbers written on Daniel's own left wrist in black permanent marker, almost faded but still legible, as if he'd written it months ago in case he ever needed to get in. As if he'd known he would want to lock it, and then, later, want to be able to open it, and hadn't trusted himself to remember which he would want more on any given day. She opened it. The tape was inside, wrapped in a cloth, labeled in handwriting that was more careful than Daniel's other labels, more deliberate. The way you write something you're afraid of losing, but more afraid of keeping. The tape shows the living room. Late at night, Daniel has set up the camera himself. It's on the tripod, across the room, aimed at the chair. He's in the chair, facing the television, watching the broadcast the way he always watched it. Still, patient. His hands folded in his lap. His mouth begins to move. He is speaking. Not in English. Not in any language that can be identified. Linguists who later reviewed this footage described it as having the rhythm of instruction, deliberate, measured, repetitive, like a lesson, like something being taught. This continues for 4 minutes. Then Daniel blinks. He looks around the room, disoriented, the way a person looks when they wake somewhere they don't remember lying down. He sees the camera. He looks at it for a long time. Then he speaks. His voice is clear and quiet and carries the sound of someone who has understood something they desperately wished they hadn't. Claire, if you're watching this, I need you to know that I'm not choosing this. I don't know what it makes me say when I'm gone. I don't know what it's using me to tell Ruby. I'm sorry. I should have thrown the television away the very first night. I should have. The emergency tone cuts him off. Color bars. Wrong order. When they clear, Daniel is gone. The chair is empty. The timestamp jumps 6 hours in a single cut. Claire watched that tape the night she found it. She packed Ruby's things and left before morning. And here is the detail that Daniel never told anyone. That Voss only discovered by pulling the original missing persons report. Ruby had been gone for 8 months. The bedroom was not empty because Ruby was somewhere in the house. The bedroom was empty because Claire took her that night, 200 miles away, and has not come back. Daniel has been alone in this house for 8 months. No wife, no daughter, no one, and the television kept broadcasting, night after night after night, unplugged, unasked, keeping him company in the way that only the signal could, showing him rooms, showing him layers, giving him something to film and label and organize and believe he was studying. He was not studying it. The tapes are not his investigation. They are the signal's record of using him. He filmed them during the windows he cannot account for, the time away from himself, the borrowed hours when something else spoke through his body. He came back each time to find a new tape in the camcorder, labeled in his own handwriting, with no memory of making it. He is not the archivist. He is the archive. I need you to go back and watch tape 1 again. Watch the woman in layer 3, the one who turns around and looks at Daniel. Look at what she's holding in her lap. I missed it completely the first time. I think you did too. Comment below what you see. I'll pin the one that gets it right. Voss found Daniel in the basement, sitting in the chair, facing the wall where the television used to hang. The television was upstairs. The wall was bare. There was a rectangle of lighter paint where the set had rested for years. A clean outline, the shape of a screen, the ghost of a frame. He was watching the wall the way you watch a screen when the picture is very good. She said his name. He turned around slowly. He didn't look frightened. He didn't look confused. He looked like a man who has stopped asking a question because the answer has arrived and is larger than he expected, and he is still deciding whether to stand up or stay seated in the face of it. It doesn't need the television anymore, he said. I've been thinking about this. The television was just the most efficient way in. Something we already watched, something we already trusted. It used the screen the way it used me, as a frame. Something to give it a shape we could hold. Voss looked at the bare wall. She looked at it for a long time. The rectangle of lighter paint pulsed. Once, the way a screen pulses when the signal cuts, she heard the emergency tone. Not from a speaker, not from a television, from a source with no location, the way sounds in dreams have no direction. Simply present, simply heard, originating from somewhere inside the experience rather than outside it, inside her head. The signal's new channel. She opened her notebook. She wrote 1 line. She closed the notebook without reading it back to herself. She knew what she had written. She had written it in the 1983 tape, in the mirror's reflection, held under someone else's arm. She understood now why Daniel had said, "Do not call her," about Ellen. Not to protect Voss from Ellen. To protect Ellen from what calling her would set in motion. It was already set in motion. Had been for 30 years. For 40 years. Maybe longer. 3 weeks later, Voss filed her report. The case was closed as inconclusive. Daniel Mercer was referred to outpatient psychiatric evaluation. He attended 2 sessions. His therapist noted he was calm, cooperative, and showed no signs of acute distress. She noted that during their second session she experienced a brief, auditory phenomenon, a tone like an alarm from no identifiable source. She did not include this in the official notes. She has not mentioned it to anyone. She has, however, begun having a recurring dream about a room with a television in it. Ellen Vale's archive was acquired by a university she does not work for. The paperwork was signed by her. She has no memory of the meeting. The broadcast schedule, the document detailing every subject, every exposure, every duration, was not included in the transfer. It is not in the archive. It is not in Ellen's apartment. Ellen reported it missing. The detective assigned to take her statement was Paula Voss, who listened carefully and wrote nothing in her notebook and said she would look into it. Voss has not looked into it. She already knows where it is. 200 miles away, in a small house in a town where nobody knows them, Claire Mercer is putting Ruby to bed. Ruby asks for a nightlight. Claire says yes. She finds one at the drugstore. Small, warm, shaped like a crescent moon, no screen. She plugs it into the outlet beside Ruby's bed and kisses her daughter's forehead and turns out the light. In the morning, the nightlight is off. Ruby is sitting up in bed, wide awake, facing the wall. Eyes open, perfectly still. On the wall where no screen has ever been, a rectangle of color bars glows faintly in the early light. Wrong order. the center bar pulsing slowly, like breathing, like something that has been waiting a long time and is, at last, comfortable. Ruby is watching it the way her father used to watch it. Patient. Still. Not frightened. She has been watching it since before she knew what a television was. Claire stands in the doorway. She wants to speak. She wants to say Ruby's name. She wants to walk into the room and take her daughter by the shoulders and turn her away from the wall. She does none of these things, because in the rectangle of color bars on the wall, in the center bar, the one that should be gray, something blinks. It blinks at Claire. It recognizes her. She has seen this before. She is certain of it. She cannot remember when. She closes the door. She goes to the kitchen. She sits down at the table. She stays there for a very long time without moving. The emergency broadcast system was designed to warn you. The warning means something is already here. Signal B9 has been transmitting since before the system existed. It was never a warning. It was a door, and it has been open inside every house that has ever held someone who loved someone else in order to stay.